Mutant Civil War is coming. XVX. Let's talk about it. Out of the loop, you'll probably be confused on why a mutant civil war is starting to brew, and there's numerous factors, and the main one being that Emma is trying to start a new school. Her antithesis is going to be none other than Cyclops. Not only is Scott trying to stop the Age of Revelation to come, he is against any and all ideals that has to do with Charles. That being said, seeing that the school is literally Charles's idea, he asked the mutants to make one on Earth while he was away, Scott's not going to be rocking with that. It's going to be completely against that whole ideology. On the flip side, the person who's trying to push and grow Charles's ideals is going to be none other than Emma Frost, who is going to be the professor of said school. The leaders for these factions are more than likely going to be Scott and Emma. And with that being said, now that we know that both the leaders and ideologies said leaders are representing, we have to figure out which mutants are going to be on which side. And I feel like this is the hardest thing I could ever come up with in terms of making a video recently. I do want to preface something. X-Men United is noted to be bringing in a plethora of mutants who have yet to have shine in this new arc. Meaning that when I make these teams, there are going to be a couple mutants that are probably going to show up that it's going to be impossible for me to predict. On top of that, I actually want to make these teams make sense on top of them not just being a complete one-sided ass whooping for one or the other. Now let's get into Team Cyclops first. A couple of members of Team Scott is actually quite easily to... First three I want to talk about are probably the ones that are going to be immediately, no questions asked, on Scott's side. And even though the first individual is not on this list, is going to be Illyana, aka Magic, is more than likely going to be Cyclops' right hand. There's a plethora of reasons why I believe Illyana is going to be so tightly knit to Scott. First one being she's always been anti-school. Second one is she is an activist right now. She wants to go out and save as many people as she can, and being in a school teaching people is not going to help her do that. Thirdly, I'm actually have to break down a lot in terms to explain it. Illyana has some of the strongest walls when it comes to all of mutant kind. Very, very rarely will she actively drop them and leave herself in a vulnerable state. And then very, very rarely on top of that does she allow people to come into those said walls in order to help her get over whatever she's going through. There's only two individuals that is no questions asked in this regard. That's Kitty and Scott. Any and every time Illyana is in the dumps, Scott has always been there for her. Through thick and thin, blood, sweat, and tears, it doesn't matter. Her whole realm could be getting consumed, and guess who she's going to go to ask for help? Scott. This bond has been something cultivated for decades, and when it comes to this Civil War, I very rarely doubt that she's going to decide to just break this chain all of a sudden. Scott's left hand is going to be none other than Kid Omega. Actually very similar to Magic, Kid Omega ever since post-Krakoa has been filled with self-doubt, weakness, feels like he's been a failure in terms of what he's supposed to be when an Omega level telepath. Well, Cyclops, he doesn't care about any of that because he still sees Quentin as Quentin, and no matter what, he values and knows exactly what he can do more than himself. He'll boost Quentin and has boosted Quentin to push the limits of his self. Not even just in terms of power, but in terms of character, in terms of personality. This Scott has been Quentin's rock in terms of like recent comics, and the older ones is Logan. And I'll get more into that later. Last one I believe is concrete and damn near guaranteed is going to be Juggernaut. Bugs and Beast kind of had this argument of ideologies already, and Jugs practically said, fuck Charles, fuck the school. I'm standing 10 toes side by side with Cyclops because he has an ambition and dream that could actually help mutant kind and not just keep us in this repetitive cycle. Let's speed through the rest of these. Ide, she's never really been in the school for Xavier when it comes to like interacting with him in general. His ideals never really touched her heart like that compared to other mutants, and she's been side by side with Cyclops ever since the beginning of this X-Men series. It'd be hard pressed for her all of a sudden to gain a desire to want to be in a school. Logan at the very start of this arc has noted specifically to Scott that he's tired. He's tired of this cycle. He's tired of having to build himself up and everyone else up just to watch it all get destroyed and crumble away. Genosha, Krakoa, the list goes on and on. It's one of the main reasons he didn't want to be on a team in the first place till Nightcrawler came to recruit him. Because of this very fact, I still think that he's going to stick to those ideals. Fuck the school. We're doing okay without having to group everyone back together and, suffer potentially suffer all over again. Comes to Gambit, Ransom, Deathstream, and Jubilee, you would note that these guys are a part of the Uncanny X-Men team, or at least half of them. I believe they're going to split again to build more confrontation and development for these teams instead of them always being one together. I don't see Gambit really, I don't have a specific purpose. I don't see Gambit wanting to be in the school. Ransom, he's been growing an astronomical bond with Wolverines. Wherever Logan ends up going, I feel like Ransom's going to follow. And wherever Ransom ends up going, because it's his big brother, Deathstream is more likely going to follow him. Jubilee, again, pretty similar to Wolverine, Cyclops. The whole like school thing, I feel like she's overgrown it. She wants more freedom, all that stuff. Logic applies to Kanan. Now let's go over to Team Emma, and again, she's obviously going to be the leader of this faction, being the professor of the school, or the one who's initiating the creation of the school. Very similar to the other team, I believe there's 3 individuals who are damn near guaranteed to be choosing the side of the school, that being Magneto, Iceman, and Rogue. Let's get into Magneto first. I think I really have to explain how much Magneto loves and respects Charles, especially when it comes to some of his ideologies. The school being a ideology, I believe he's going to be completely with, seeing that, again, mutant kind is separated. He's always about unification, and this would be a perfect opportunity to have everyone together again, especially since he himself is in a weakened state. It's a good way for him to keep an eye on all the lesser mutants in terms of power and whatnot. Emma and Bobby have some of the most history out of all mutant duos, and I believe this history is going to be one of the main reasons he's going to side with Emma, on top of him not really having a reason to be like anti-school. Third one being Kitty. After the events of Krakoa, where she's been completely against who she is as an individual after her forcefully having to put down people permanently, she's changed. She's changed astronomically so, but her new team, her new students, that's the key word here, has brought a new light to herself. She found joy and passion in terms of teaching people because of this. And again, with Emma being the professor, I don't see why Kitty wouldn't just jump on at that. Beast, Rogue, and Nightcrawler are pretty self-explanatory. This is the version of Beast from when Xavier's school was still rocking around, so I don't see why he wouldn't be cool with the idea. Rogue, specifically, ever since the fall of Krakoa, has been completely on Charles' side in terms of his ideologies, wanting to save him, try to help him redeem him. She would definitely side with Emma in terms of wishing for his goals and ideologies to be seen. The same ideology applies to Nightcrawler. Teaching people, believing in faith, trying to grow the youth. That's all in Nightcrawler's shtick. I don't see why, again, he would be like anti-school, whatever reason. Obviously, you can see the other half of the Uncanny X-Men team being Rogue, Nightcrawler, Jitter, and Calico, because I believe Jitter and Calico need that push, need that tutelage in order for them to finally control their powers. It would make the most sense if they go to a school to do that very thing. Plus, they are deeply connected to Rogue and Nightcrawler more than they are Wolverine and Gambit. Obviously, there's going to be a couple people, again, I couldn't fit on this list, but everyone that was under Emma and Kitty's tutelage, like Brawn, Axo, Melee, are more than likely going to be on Emma's side as well. Now, there are some individuals, some mutants out there that are really hard to dictate on where they're going to sit in terms of the thing, or it could even be outright neutral. I believe in terms of that neutrality is going to be Storm. She was cool with Charles. She helped him try to escape the planet, but one thing Storm is a mutant lover. She loves her family. She loves her friends, and seeing them fight potentially to the death over something as simple as a school is going to devastate her. So even though she might have like moral standings with one team, I don't think she's choose a side, because again, Storm don't rock with that. If Storm joins, whatever side she is on, the other side is going to need an Omega level in order to match her to keep things fair. And we don't know who else is on Earth that could match Storm. For example, put Storm on this team, you got Magneto and Iceman with her. On this team, you got Kid Omega, Jugs, and Magic. Like I said, you need someone else to balance things out. Exodus, Marvel, if you're watching this, Exodus. Bob Herman is also another one of those characters that's really hard to pinpoint on which side he's going to jump to. Like, he's currently Team Cyclops in terms of being on the X-Men, but like, does he want the school? Does he not want the school? He wasn't even really there when the school was like active. Like, it's kind of hard to say. Same logic applies to every mutant across the planet that we just haven't been engaging with all too much. It's kind of really hard to dictate their moral standing right now because, again, we haven't seen them too much. I know Marvel better bring the Goats Legion or X is back at some point because they've been gone too long.